The first step in our Gator finishing step system is removal. Now this starts out with the very aggressive 36 grit and moves us down to the more softer 100 grit. Now when sanding, it's always very important to stay in sequence. Why, you ask? Well, you may not notice your imperfections or inconsistencies now, but you definitely will when you go later on to finish. It's always a good rule of thumb to stay in sequence. Now, with these aggressive grits, they're most commonly used in rust removal as well as removing many layers of paint on exterior projects, whether that be siding on a barn shed or maybe some of the decking that you had from years ago that just needs a little bit of a brush up. So that's where you're going to be using these more aggressive grits. You have the option of using by hand, or you can use any of the power tool options behind me. Depending on what your project is going to depend on what product and what tool you're going to use. For furniture restoration projects, you wouldn't dare want to use anything aggressive or any aggressive grits. You will compromise your project and have a high risk of running scratches or gouges in your work. Instead, we are going to be using a chemical stripper with our scuff pads or synthetic steel wool. This is going to be delicate enough to where it's going to be able to take off our existing finish, but yet aggressive enough to make sure to get in all of these intricacies without harming them. Once we are done with all of the removal of the old finish with the chemical stripper and scuff pads, then we are now able to move on to step 2 in our process, which is surface preparation, and that's whenever we're going to get into the fun part and all of the sanding that's involved.